Yo, what's up guys, Boss here, and I'm back with another YouTube video, and this time we are currently second in the world right now. So what I wanted to do is show you guys the games that got me second in the world. I haven't done a video in a really long time where I've gone over replays and commentated while I watch them, and I feel like these types of videos are really good for you guys to learn how to use a specific deck, because often when I'm playing live games, you guys, might not be able to catch everything, I'm saying, because you're focused on the gameplay. Or also, I might not do the best job of commentating because I'm really, zoned in on the game. So with these types of videos, I can give you a really, kind of accurate analysis of how you want to be playing every matchup. And I'm using what is currently the best deck in this game. There's no doubt that this is the best deck in the game. I mean, number one's using it right now. I'm number two. We have Morton using it. He's hiding his deck. He's not actually using that. He's using RG2. So it's just by far the best deck right now in the game. So I want to go ahead and start with this RG deck that's similar and then go over a pretty difficult matchup. We also have a Lava Loon game. We have Mega Knight Ram Rider and Barbug Graveyard, which a lot of people consider very difficult to beat with RG. If we have time, we could also go over this Mortar deck, because this Mortar Bait deck is also really popular in the meta right now. But we're going to start versus RG deck that's quite similar to ours. I mean, he has the Zappies and the Knight, but we play it a similar way regardless. So in single, we can just cycle our Skeletons, Heal Spirit, and kind of figure out what he has. I know that this is Flobby. He changed his name. I'm not really sure why, but I do know that this is Flobby. Kind of feeling him out. We see a Knight. I mean, that typically isn't used in RG, so at this point, I wasn't sure what this was. I thought maybe it was Graveyard because we see the Knight and the Skeleton Dragons, but when he uses his log, that pretty much tells me it's for sure going to be RG. We could speed it up a little bit in single. I go for the RG in the back. So the reason why I do that is because I know that he has most likely RG, because with log, there's no way that it could be Graveyard. I just thought he had like some sort of funky RG deck. And then look at this defense here. I go for the Hunter and the Skeleton Dragons. I make sure to space them out because let's say he decided to Fireball them. I didn't want to give him too much value, and because he was so aggressive, look at the RG in the opposite lane getting so much damage on his tower. I immediately react with the Fireball when I see the Zappies, and just like that, we have a massive lead because he was so aggressive, and I was able to defend so cheaply, and this is why I prefer this exact RG deck. A lot of people ask me, like, if you can make substitutions. Of course you can. But what I really love about this specific RG deck is because you have Heal Spirit Skeletons, your cycle is much faster than if you're versus another RG deck. There's also some other RG decks in this meta, ones that have the Goblin Cage, and those two, you still have a faster cycle than. So in single elixir, you're just easily going to be able to get the lead because you can keep track of their cycle and just identify when they're low on elixir, or maybe they just don't have the correct cards in rotation. And also, your defense is just much cheaper. You have the Skeletons to block the Fisherman, which is really nice, and the Heal Spirit just gets you so much value. So at this point, we only needed a Fireball to finish off the right-hand lane. So we can go ahead and speed this up because this is just about defense. I Fireball the tower and the Skeleton Dragons, set up for a Hunter, knowing he's trying to go for an RG. There it is. He is going to get a pretty nice Fireball here, allowing the RG to get a connection on the tower, but he still has a lot of work to do. I Fireball the tower just to make sure we have it, so we don't end up defending with the Fireball and then lose our tower, and then for whatever reason not be able to get around to another. Always better to be safe than sorry, in my opinion, and we get a really nice win here. So this is our next game versus Pegasus. Not gonna lie, pretty difficult matchup in my opinion, but we managed to win, and you guys are about to see why. And there's even a little bit of, emotes going on at the beginning. I throw the angry face because I know what he's using. He's laughing because he knows what I'm using. He knows he has a good matchup. He's even saying thanks because he knows he has a good matchup. This is a great matchup for him because he has the Inferno Drag, which I don't really have a set reset for except the Fireball. And his defense is super strong versus the RG in general. I mean, he's got the Tornado, he's got the Freeze. He also has the Graveyard, which I don't have a ton of responses for, especially if he's freezing. Bad EWIS on his part. I didn't throw the WoW because that was a pretty big mistake. So I go for the Skeleton Dragons in the back, and go for an RG at the bridge because he just wasted an EWIS, and I knew we weren't going to get punished too hard for this. So he's going to defend this pretty easily, but you guys are about to see this is how I end up winning the matchup. Do you see that bowler there? It doesn't have a lot of HP, but it has just enough for me to pull the bowler to the king tower and activate my king tower, which will immensely help defend his graveyard pushes from this point on in the game. So you see, very nice king tower activation. I throw the thumbs up, but here's the thing. You can see he's up elixir, so the problem is I am going to take quite a lot of damage here. I try to do my best to defend it. By the way, Hunter is the best. That's the best placement to play the Hunter when defending a graveyard. I see a lot of people play the Hunter behind the graveyard. That's actually not a very good play because it gets distracted by the skeletons and doesn't take them out as efficiently. You want to play the Hunter on the side of the tower. May seem weird, but it's a much better placement than playing it behind the tower, which I see a lot of people do. I used to not know that, but I actually learned that a couple months ago. Inferno Drag melts, absolutely melts my tower. He throws the wild, but he doesn't have a ton of elixir after that graveyard. We can speed it up here. You see, he's low on elixir. RG's getting several shots in on the tower. I go for a fireball, and now things aren't looking too bad. We have the king activated, right? We got a solid amount of damage on his tower, and, you know, it's pretty easy for us to just get a little bit of chip damage here and there, especially with the fireball. So here he goes, loading up for another graveyard. He's going to go for the graveyard right now. Bowler is tanking for it, but with the king tower activated, it's going to make things so much easier for us to defend. You can see skeletons and the king tower helping out. We take almost no damage. We do take one bowler roll, which is kind of unlucky, but we still have our tower alive, and that is going to be so helpful because you're going to see at the end of this game, watch what happens. RG coming in, he needs to spend all of his elixir to take care of the RG, and maybe, you know, a little bit of a mistake here defending the RG. He could have potentially just tornadoed the tower, froze the tower. You see Angry Face comes out from him, and we end up winning the game. A little bit of crying comes out from me just because he was BMing us at the beginning because he knew what I was using, and the only reason I won that is because I activated the king tower off of the bowler. But that is what you want to do. Any opportunity you have to activate the king tower versus any kind of graveyard deck, take advantage of it, and if they have the bowler, that's really easy to do. So here we go. We found a game versus Lava Loon. Lava Loon, you know, is a deck that's been around for a while now, so we can go over possibly this one, maybe even both of these, because Lava Miner Skeleton Dragons is a little different than Lava Loon Tombstone. So maybe we'll go over both of them, speed it up in single. And I'll kind of talk through my thought process here. So typically, you want to try to outcycle them and get a lot of damage with your RG in single because their cycle is so much slower than yours. Lava Loon, you know, has an average cost of about 4.0. And what's interesting is this guy has the Fireball. Typically, this Lava Loon deck has Zap and Arrows when they have the Miner, but he does have the Fireball, which is going to help him a little bit because instead of him having to spend 5 elixir to take out the Skeleton Dragons, he can just spend 4. So that is going to help him a bit. But overall, not too bad of a matchup because we do have the Hunter, which is so good against the Hunter, or excuse me, against the Lava Hound and the Balloon. So I just go for a Hunter here, and then I go Skeleton Dragons. Notice where I play them, spacing it out, so then that way I don't, you know, give him too much Fireball value, because had I played them, and I'm slowing down here because there's a really nice Fireball that comes up. Had I played them too close to the Hunter, he would have been able to Fireball everything, and he probably would have taken my tower. Perfect timed Fireball. You can see pushes back the Balloon and make sure it doesn't get a single hit on top of my tower. Had that Balloon gotten a hit, that would have been pretty bad, and it would have put him in a pretty good position. But because that didn't end up getting a hit, not only am I up elixir, but I have a slight damage lead as well. So things are looking pretty solid here. And you can see maybe a little bit of a mistake here on his part. He does spend a lot of elixir on defense, and you're going to see in a second how much Fireball value he gave me. So he played Skeleton Dragons in range of the Mega Minion. He probably should have spaced that out a bit more because I don't think he realized how valuable that Fireball was going to be at the time. He's just going to load up with another Lava Hound in the back. So I'm immediately going to pressure with an RG at the bridge. This is all about cycle. It's not easy for him to always have a good cycle for taking out the RG because he had just used his Barbarian, so he has no DPS to take it out. And then once again, I'm going to space out my Skeleton Dragons, force him to Fireball those so the Hunter doesn't end up getting fireballed as well. But a really nice monitor on his end, and he is going to end up taking out the tower. So that was overall a pretty nice play on his end. I wasn't really expecting to lose my tower there. And now at this point, we need to be a little bit patient, because if I play RGs in the pocket right away, it's pretty obvious he's just going to go with barbarians, and then I'm either going to have to fireball those or spend elixir to defend them, and then he would end up gaining an elixir lead. So I need to wait until a good opportunity to do it, for him to either go in for a lava balloon, which he does right here, or for him to just overall be lower on elixir than I am. So I am forced to go for a fireball here, otherwise the balloon definitely would have gotten a connection. And now I'm about ready to go for an RG, so I just go for a fisherman to pressure, and I want to see if I can force elixir out of him. I do a good job of that. It forces a Mega Minion out and a zap, and I also got damage on his tower. And look at what I do here. This was a really nice juke out. So I go for a hunter because I had a feeling he would expect me to go for an RG at the bridge with the hunter. But look at what I do. Instead, I go for an RG in the pocket after he played the barbarians. So he had nothing to take out the RG. The only thing he had in rotation was a miner. And then with the heal spirit, that RG is just getting so much damage. So that was a really nice play as well. Kind of like a mini prediction. And then at this point, things were looking really bad for him because I just needed a few more RG hits. Oh, and then look at this. I also predict his prediction fireball. I had a feeling he was going to fireball the hunter. So I waited to play my hunter. And then after the fireball was down, I played it. I give him the thumbs up because I knew that that was a really, good prediction on my end. I go for the RG in the pocket, and that's GG. And yeah, we both exchanged good lucks at the end. So again, another nice win. And then we could also go over this one versus Welcome, who, has a little bit of a different Lava Loon deck. Obviously he does have the Inferno Drag, which not often is used in Lava Loon Tombstone. We often see the, the Mega Minion or Skeleton Dragons used, but because of all the RG, that's probably why he has the Inferno Drag in the deck. He also has guards, which make his cycle a little faster because he does have the Inferno Drag instead of the Mega Minion, so he probably needs something to bring down the elixir cost of his deck. So we can speed this up at the beginning. Nothing really major happens at the beginning here. We're just cycling cards. I log his Tombstone, cycle Skeletons, Fisherman, same lane as the Tombstone. I like playing Fisherman same lane as the Tombstone because it kind of allows you to build up a push with the Fisherman potentially. He's throwing the WoW. RRG gets a couple of hits, Skeleton Dragons lock on the tower as well, and then we'll slow it down here for this defense. He ends up making a little bit of a mistake. I don't really know what happens here, but he goes for the Fireball. That's not the mistake, obviously, but you're going to see he goes for the Zap and ends up missing the Hunter. So that pretty much allowed me to not have to spend anything else on this Lava Hound. So that was a pretty major mistake on his end. And I know his Inferno Drag's out of rotation, so I immediately load up with an RG at the bridge. And I know he's either going to do one of two things. He's just going to play guards and save elixir and Lava Hound, or he's going to play the Tombstone. But either way, I wanted to log these guards right away, and then I go for a Heal Spirit. Unfortunately, it doesn't allow the RG to get one more shot, but we still got a little bit of damage, and I knew he was low on elixir after going for that Fireball Zap on the Hunter after he already played a Lava Hound. So he's just going to set up for a Lava Hound at the bridge, and look at what I do. I wouldn't really call this a prediction, but I knew that right at about double elixir he was going to Lava Hound. So I played the Fisherman in the back, and he goes for a Lava Hound in the opposite lane. I also did this because I knew he didn't have guards in rotation or the Tombstone, so he had no ground card in response to deal with it, so I knew it was guaranteed damage. Even though he played the minions on top of it, that's not going to prevent all of the damage because they barely don't do enough DPS. And even if it didn't get any damage, it would have forced elixir out of him that he couldn't support his Lava Loon push with. Because ultimately, when you're playing versus Lava Loon or Golem, you don't want them to be able to support their Lava Hound push. And this was a little bit unlucky. Balloon has like 1 HP on it, and it gets a connection on the tower. It was barely not going to get any if the Hunter did slightly more damage, and then I would have been able to save my tower most likely. But it still has a little bit of HP, which is good. And I still go for the defense because I don't want him to, to get an easy 3 crown. I can't really let the tower go, and I also couldn't have played an RG in the pocket because he had the Inferno Drag up, so it would have just melted the RG. So kind of like the last Lava Loon game, I need to be, a little bit cautious of when I'm going in for RGs. But that RG in the pocket was really good because I knew that his Inferno Drag was out of rotation. But I didn't know he was going to go for a balloon at the same time, so that balloon might have been a little bit of a mistake on his end. A little aggressive, and it was quite easy for us to defend as well. So I'm going to hold off on the RG here, obviously, because he has the Inferno Drag right in the middle, and I don't want to give him a huge amount of counter push potential. So I'm just going to Hunter the Lava. He's going to balloon again, and this time he plays it in the pocket. And this is just really easy for me to stop. You see with the Hunter and the Fireball, just there's not really much of a chance for the balloon to connect to the tower. And then I go for RG Skeletons to try to distract maybe an Inferno Drag that he plays. And then this was the RG that pretty much won me the game. At this point, it was over. RG got so much damage on the tower, and all I really needed to do now was just get one more good RG in, and then it was game over. So we can speed it up 2 times speed here. He's going to go for an Inferno Drag predicting an RG. I play the RG because the Inferno Drag locked on the Fisherman. It gets one more shot. So, like, not quite enough, but he can't really break through with the Lava Hound and Balloon, so it doesn't really matter too much. And I just go for another RG in the pocket, Fireball predicting, like, a Tombstone, resetting the Inferno Drag, whatever he decided to play, and get another nice win. So, I think the last couple I want to go over is probably this one. And because Mega Knight Ram Rider, you know, it's a pretty classic deck. It's used pretty much in every meta a little bit, and then this Graveyard Bar Putt deck. You know what, I might go over the Mortar one too. We'll see how quick. I know the Graveyard Bar Putt one was fairly fast, so maybe I'll just go over all of them. Okay, so here we go. Nothing really... I'll speed it up in single. I think for all the games, I'll just speed it up in single. So those Skeletons would have fully countered the Bandit, but he does end up going in for a Snowball, which was really nicely played on his end. So the key in this match is patience. You don't want to be aggressive with the RGs because you'll get punished because of him having the Inferno Drag as well as the Ram Rider. And if you guys didn't know, Ram Rider is an amazing counter to the RG. So notice how I didn't Fisherman to activate the King Tower. If I did that, it would have been really, really difficult to defend the stuff behind because the Fisherman would have ended up dying. And I think if they have a lot of Elixir to support the Mega Knight, it's not a good idea to go for the King activation. In my opinion, not the best Ram Rider. He might have just done that to fix his cycle or something, but it might have been smarter if he played that in the back, because I felt like playing it at the bridge, it was really easy for me to defend. You know, I had my Hunter and Log in rotation, everything I needed to stop the Ram Rider. He's going to go for a nice poison, but the Skeleton Dragons deal enough damage to the Inferno Drag that I can just ignore it. And he goes Bandit, so this time I go Skeletons, and I believe it fully defends it, but I just go for the Fisherman anyway because I was full on Elixir and had to cycle. So I go for the RG because he played Mega Knight in the back, didn't have Inferno Drag back in cycle yet, and this Mega Knight I knew was going to be easy to stop. Fisherman is just an incredible counter to it, and just we defended it really nicely, and then I can just easily Fireball on top of everything there. And then that Heal Spirit was really nice too, preventing the Bandit Dash. So the defense there was really perfect. We were able to go for an RG, punish him for playing that Mega Knight in the back, and successfully defend without making any mistakes. And that's how this matchup can get a little bit dicey sometimes. If you have any slip-ups in your defense against the Bandits, the Ram Riders, anything like that, or even the Mega Knight, it can be a little difficult. But if you're really careful and every defense you make is calculated, you shouldn't really have any issues here in this matchup. The only Bridge Spam deck that could be a little hard is the one that has Magic Archer, Lumberjack. That one's a little more difficult because they have a faster cycle, so it's easier for them to keep up with your RGs. But with this one, they're not always going to have the correct cards in rotation for dealing with your RG, which is why you're able to win. And also the faster cycle one has Fireball as well. So I go for a Log here just to make sure the Ram Rider didn't connect to the tower, but I didn't even need it, to be honest. That was a bit, you know, over defensive, but it's okay because he doesn't have enough Elixir here. Fireball's going to reset the Inferno Drag, Heal Spirit healing it up, and then the RG doesn't take the tower, but it does put me in Log and Fireball range. And then he left, so I'm laughing too, and we win that one pretty easily. Wasn't really too close. And now let's go over this one and then one more, and I think that'll be good for the video. I'm just trying to go over decks that I feel like are pretty popular in the meta, and I feel like Graveyard Barb Hut's really popular in the meta, as well as Mortar, so these are really good ones to go over. So this one, I feel like Graveyard in general is a matchup a lot of people who use RG struggle with, so this is a really good one for me to explain to you guys how I like playing. Ultimately, the goal in this matchup is you want to outcycle the Barbarian Hut, and every time you go in for an RG when they don't have Barbarian Hut and cycle, you're getting a lot of damage. Just a tip, if someone cycles Skeleton Dragons in the back, you can RG in the back because you're up 4 Elixir, and 2 Skeleton Dragons split aren't going to do pretty much anything to your tower. So feel free to RG in the back if you see someone split Skeleton Dragons in the back. And I do that even if I don't know what they're using, even if, you know, because honestly, they can't do anything. Like you can see, he went for a Graveyard with one of the Skeleton Dragons. I defended it really nicely, and not only do I defend it, I have 2 Skeleton Dragons applying pressure in the opposite lane, Fisherman pulling the Knight. He has an RG and 2 Skeleton Dragons to defend, and he doesn't have enough Elixir for a Barb Hut. So things are not looking too good for him already. RG gets a couple hits on top of his tower, and then I believe he distracts the Fisherman with the Heal Spirit. No, he doesn't. I thought he was going to because he had the Heal Spirit and cycle, but he just allows it to pull the Musketeer. So right now, I think I cycle RG in the back again because I know that I'm up Elixir, and I also don't know that he has if he has Barbarian Hut or if he has Goblin Cage yet, because sometimes this Graveyard deck has Goblin Cage. There's a couple different variants I've seen in CRL, competitive, and also ladder. There's occasional times I see the deck have Goblin Cage, so I don't know what it is yet, but now that I know it's Barbarian Hut, I'm not going to be playing RGs in the back anymore. The reason why versus Barbarian Hut you don't want to play RGs in the back is because if you do, the Barbarians that spawn out of the Barbarian Hut are going to damage the RG before it even makes it to the other side, whereas if you're versus a Goblin Cage, it's good to do because the cage doesn't do anything to the RG as it's making its way to your opponent's tower or the Goblin Cage. So this time the Graveyard is a bit more successful on his end. He gets quite a bit of damage, and you know the Hunter I feel like isn't as much counter push potential. But since he played the Musketeer and was aggressive with the Graveyard, I knew he didn't have enough Elixir for the Barb Hut, so I just go RG at the bridge. He has to go for a late Barbarian Hut, but by the time he does, I already have enough Elixir to play Skeleton Dragons. And I make a bit of a mistake here. I played the Skeletons too late. I was trying to get greedy because you actually can stop the Musketeer from getting any damage on your tower with Skeletons if you time it right. And I just timed it a bit too late because I was focused on my RG. So he's even calling out the good game because he knows he doesn't have enough Elixir for the Barbarian Hut. So I'm just able to get a lot of damage with my RG in there. He's going to Knight in front of the Musketeer. No, he doesn't. That's what I would have done if I were him. Sometimes it's hard to predict what your opponent's going to do because you're thinking of what you would do in the situation. I remembered this, and I fireballed that there, which was good value. But I remembered these matches because I just played them today earlier. I remembered most of the things that happened, but there's a couple of things I forgot. And I tried predicting like what they were going to do, but for some reason he didn't go for the Knight in front of the Musketeer. But we wrap up that game, didn't even go into double Elixir, and that's how it should be. If, you know, that matchup you need to win in single Elixir if you want to win. So now, this last game versus Coca RX, I think is a great one to show because this Mortar Bait deck is very, very, you know, strong and consistent in the meta. We've seen it now the last couple months, I would say. Good in CRL as well. And Coca RX, a really, really good Mortar player. He's going to start with Mortar first play. Mortar first play, not a bad starting play in my opinion. Some people who use Mortar are a little bit, you know, afraid of doing that. He's calling out the good game because I guess maybe, I mean, he either knew what we were using or because, I don't know, he's not confident that he would win. But honestly, I don't entirely know what this matchup is. I think we might have the slight edge, but it's nothing major. But we do outcycle his Mortar here, so I go with an RG at the bridge. Generally, the general rule of thumb with this deck is when your opponent doesn't have a Mortar in cycle, just feel free to go for RG at the bridge because, or sorry, did I say Mortar? I mean any building in general, you want to do that because they're just not going to have a great way of dealing with the RG. This was a really nice Mortar though because I didn't have a Royal Giant in cycle, so that was a great play on his end. The Skeleton Barrel is easy to stop with the Hunter. I often don't like using logs on the Skeleton Barrel if all possible. because it's good to sometimes save it for the Goblin Gang. If you're going for an RG at the bridge in this matchup, you need to be able to support it. And if you don't have a log in rotation, you're just allowing the Mortar player to play a Goblin Gang, Spear Goblins, and take out your RG so easily, and also have a counter push. So I usually like defending the Skeleton Barrels when I can with Hunters, Skeleton Dragons, as well as Heal Spirits. But if you need to log it, it's okay, but I would prefer using another card. So he's going to defend this RG really easily. You're going to see this is what I was talking about. I go for Skeleton Dragons on this Skeleton Barrel, just skeletons to distract, because I want to save my log. I know once again he has his Mortar out of rotation, so I go for an RG at the bridge. He is going to be able to cycle back to one though, which is really well played on his part, and he's going to defend this pretty nicely, but I think if I remember correctly here, we still get one hit on his tower. He's also going to go for the Goblin Gang. I go for the log, and the RG does end up getting one shot. So I go for an RG at the bridge again. Goblin Gang and Mortar's out of rotation, so he has less DPS. Heal Spirit also heals up the RG, and before he gets that Mortar down, the RG does get one hit on his tower. So things are looking really good for us here. We got a lead, and we're up slightly in Elixir, and we're kind of making his cycle a bit awkward. We're kind of in control of this game, I feel like. We just are putting him in uncomfortable positions where he's just forced to spend so much Elixir to take out the RG, where he's never really having an opportunity to go in for an offensive Mortar or for, you know, successful Skeleton Barrel pushes, because he can't support these Skeleton Barrels if we're just keeping up the non-stop pressure in the opposite lane. He is going to go for a Skeleton Barrel though here, and I am forced to log it because I don't have enough Elixir available to defend it in other ways. And then he goes Spear Goblins. I don't really want to ignore them because even though they don't get a ton of damage, this game can often be really close in a matter of just a few hundred HP, so I don't want to give him that chance of potentially stealing this one. And then obviously because he went for the offensive Mortar, he's not going to have a defensive Mortar in rotation, and by the time he gets it down, the RG gets a shot on the tower already. It actually picks up 2 shots because it took a little while to retarget. I was up Elixir, so I sent a Fireball on his tower. I'm confident I can defend after cycling that Fireball because I had the Elixir lead, and he also doesn't have a Mortar in rotation. I go for an RG, so he can't go for an offensive Mortar. He's forced to go for a defensive one, and that's exactly what he does. I log the Skeleton Barrel, distract the Mortar so it doesn't lock on our tower, and now all I need to do is cycle 2 Fireballs on top of his tower. Hunter was played really nicely to take care of that Musketeer, and then I just log all of this, and that's GG. So really nice win versus that Mortar deck. It was pretty close. Coca RX, really good Mortar player, and we managed to win. Probably slightly in our favor there. And the Lava matchups too are overall pretty good for us. The ones that are a little difficult are this one and well, this one of all was probably the hardest. This one is about the same, and then this one too, if you don't win in single, can be difficult. But overall, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys learned a bit of how to use this deck. A little bit of a longer one, but I wanted it to be pretty informal, and you know, we're, as I said, second in the world right now. I would have gone for first, but the person in first is like 3 games ahead, because if you guys didn't know, when you get high up, you only get like 18 trophies per win sometimes. So like, I wasn't really sure how many games. It probably would have taken 3 games, to be honest, which is kind of a lot, especially when you're like high up and you're like versing good players. It's a little bit like, it's kind of a lot of games you have to play, because I'm second, I'm not going to be getting plus 30s most likely, or 25s even. I'm mostly going to be getting plus 20s, so it would take 3 games about. But anyway, that's going to be it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if you guys enjoy these kinds of videos where I'm going over the replays, commentating over them, like explaining, analyzing, you know, how I played them, so you guys get a good understanding of the deck. By the way, looking good in the global tournament here. I'm 22-0, so maybe, you know, maybe my next video I'll try to go for like, maybe possibly even 30 wins in the global tournament, but we'll have to see. I might want to focus and play it without recording. I'll just have to decide though. But that's gonna be it. Thanks again. Until next time, guys.